Thanks for joining me. This is John Torres, TechYeti, and at TechYeti.com. Today I'm doing a head-to-head comparison between two of the hottest Gen 3 pickleball paddles under $100 right now. We have the Friday Fever Elongated versus the Luzz Pickleball Pro Cannon. If you're looking for a serious performing paddle without spending $200, $300, or even $150, this video is for you. But before we do, full disclosure, this video is not sponsored by these companies. I paid my own money for these paddles, but if you use discount codes in the description down below or affiliate links, I do get an incentive from that, which helps me create more videos like this one. Nevertheless, these opinions are my own. All right, why am I comparing these two paddles? The reason I wanted to compare these two is pretty simple. They're Gen 3 paddles. They're both under $100, and both are getting a lot of attention or have gotten a lot of attention at the launch of their site. Now, they both all provide great power, good spin, and most of all, the biggest thing is the value. That's why I thought these would be a good comparing of paddles. These two paddles people were always talking about at the launch or even up to today. And that's why I wanted to give you guys a side-by-side comparison to give you my honest thoughts. First, let's talk about price real quick. Let's get it over with. The Friday Fever right now sells for $90, but they released a new Black edition right before the holidays of last year. I would personally go with that one because that one has a better grip or a different grip, and the face is more gritty. Plus, I really enjoy the all stealth black. That's really something really nice. But Friday Pickle does provide other color options like the orange, white, and Miami Vice. So if you want a little bit more personality, a little bit more bold colors, definitely check them out. Now, on the other side, if you do go with Luzz Pickleball, I personally enjoy just the all stealth black, but you really can't identify much on this. But they do have some collaborations on there that might be a little bit different price. But if you go with the standard all black, I think right now you can get it for $93 with my discount code TechYeti. Let's talk a little bit about the first thing, which is power. Now, power has been talked about all of 2025, and it's still going to be the conversation throughout every paddle that comes out there. When the Friday Pickleball paddle came out, this was pretty impressive to many because it provided a lot of great things that some really high-end $280 paddles that people were purchasing, still you can get on this paddle. But again, if you needed to get more power out of it because it is such a lightweight paddle, people were saying to add weight, and I agree with that. I actually took off the weight myself, but I had Pickleball Effects tuning tape, and I added from the neck all the way to more than half of the side of the paddle. And that drastically increased the power, performance, stability. Overall, if you're looking for a Friday paddle, it is slightly lighter than your average paddle. So if you're not wanting a heavy paddle, this might be something you might want. You still can get great power by just tweaking it with a little bit of weight. If you don't want to do that, you still can get some good plow through, some good response. But regarding some power, you're definitely going to get a little bit more forgiveness. I call it kind of like easy power from the Friday Fever versus the Pro Cannon. Now, the Pro Cannon has a bit more of that raw, punchy power, especially in drives and counters. So if you're wanting more of that, you're definitely going to get something out of this. Neither of these paddles feels dead, or you might want to consider the Friday Fever a little bit more, has a little bit more control and dwell or pocketing of the ball. You might feel better with that one. Overall power comparison, no doubt the Luzz Pickleball is just, no pun intended, a cannon. Now, with our next segment, let's get right to the 3Ds, which is dinks, drives, and drops. This is where I really separate the paddles and how it feels and how it performs from my perspective and gameplay. First, let's start with dinks. Regarding the Friday Fever feels slightly softer, more forgiving at the kitchen, and it doesn't pop up as much than the Pro Cannon. You're going to feel like I can control this a little bit more. Now, at first, if you're not used to that power, you might find yourself popping it up even with any control paddle. But nevertheless, if we're talking just these two paddles, this is a little bit more forgiving. You might feel better with the response. Now, the sound is not as loud as the Pro Cannon. If you're wanting more knocking sound like those other paddles out there, you might want to gravitate towards the Pro Cannon if that's something you're looking for. I think this is really solid for those people that are looking to get something with a little bit more control, more drive in regards to the dinks. Now, the spin, the grit on here, I'm going to be honest, I haven't cleaned this paddle. There's no dust residue on here because this kind of material doesn't really need to be cleaned much. And what that says is not as gritty. Now, the Black Stealth Edition they have is grittier. You might want to see that. That could be a little bit different. But with that said, it does take a little bit more to provide more spin on these if you're trying to get more aggressive dinks and spin on the paddle. Now, on the other hand, the Pro Cannon is solid, more firm, and you do need a good touch. I absolutely love this when it came out, when I got it. It has such a nice loud knock, but still very satisfying. You will definitely notice the difference in regards to a dink. I absolutely love how this feels, the response, the pocket, and you can just leave your paddle out there and it just bounces back, and that feel and sound provides great performance and the spin. Now, on occasion, there were times when I was doing my two-handed, backhand return dinks and those things were popping up, but I think it was more me just trying to get used to the paddle. But do expect that this is more poppier than the Friday Fever. So when you're doing the dinks, expect it from that. But if you want some more performance and get used to it, it'll just take some time to get to hone it in. I would say the Pro Cannon has an advantage for that. So the edge for control, obviously on dinks, would go for the Friday Fever. For a little bit more spin and pop and knock sound and overall firmness, I would say the Pro Cannon is better for that. Let's talk next about drives. Now, this is where things are going to kind of reverse itself and say that absolutely one that shines here is the Pro Cannon. The Pro Cannon is really one that explodes off the face. The spin and drive on serves, man, this thing makes the ball scream. That ball will stay in place. But again, you still need to hone it in. You really need to apply more topspin because it's so powerful. This is the reason why you need to make sure you're applying that topspin so it can dip into the court for that. Overall power, if you're an aggressive player, man, this is definitely one to get. Now, on the opposite end, of course, because this one is more poppy, great for aggressive baseline players, I would say the Fever is the opposite for that. It still provides great power, not as much. You might need to apply more into it, which is good for people that are too sensitive and driving the ball out and popping out. They want something a little bit more controllable. The Friday Fever is going to be not bad. If you add weight, you can truly enhance the power on this, and it really does perform very well. So I would say if you're looking for something like that, I would say the Friday Fever might be for you. Otherwise, the Pro Cannon's really for those aggressive players. Now, next, let's talk about drops. Both obviously are capable, but the Friday Fever feels easier to dial in because it's not as poppy. I feel like this will provide some great response. When I first got this and I was playing with it, I was surprising myself on how the paddles would just get right over the net. You definitely have to apply a little bit more topspin to really make sure that ball dips in so it's not flying out of bounds. So when it comes to drops, you can find yourself that this one, and resets, man, this one just played so well, had some control. I had some of my best games when I first got this. I was impressing myself. Overall, not bad, but you definitely got to apply a little bit more spin so you can get that ball over the net. Drops, I say more controllable on the Friday Fever. Drops for this one, really outstanding, but again, because it's more firm, you really need to have more finesse. You can definitely pop up the ball easy, especially from like the dinks and the drops on this one. Those things can definitely fly a little bit higher than expected, so you're finding yourself always having to reset. Nevertheless, because of that poppiness, if you just put your paddle out there, the ball will definitely scream and get over the net, which is really, really nice. So I give the slight edge to the Friday Fever for their drops. So let's just kind of finish up close. Let's talk about who each paddle is for. So if you want a forgiving paddle, you value touch and consistency, you like color options that are bright and bold, but also might still have a all black clean option, the Friday Fever Elongated or their wide body is a deal for you. So I would say that the Friday Fever Elongated is recommended for somebody that wants a lighter paddle. You might want to customize a little bit more. You like the color options. You want a little bit of balance of power and some control. I would say the Friday Fever is an all-around court paddle. So I would recommend it for those that are looking for that. But If you're an aggressive player or you want something that has more power, you can't provide your own power. You rely a lot on drives, counter, speed ups, or you have a nice soft game and you want something that's has a louder knocking sound, maybe a little bit more firm, more power response. That's where the Pro Cannon comes right in. This is absolutely an amazing paddle for the performance. So let's talk about my final thoughts. Honestly, I would probably go with both of these paddles under $100. You can't really go wrong. Are there some negatives to each? Absolutely. Hopefully I provided that in the videos for you so you can kind of have a comparison. If I were to choose one of these right now for a tournament tomorrow, which one would I choose? I would go with the Pro Cannon. It is one thing that if you haven't seen my other videos, this is dual certified. It might not mean anything to a lot of people, but if you're one that is, whether you're like an advanced beginner, intermediate, or advanced, or even a professional, this is for all people to play with, right? They both are. If you're like a rec player that might play in a tournament, this is still USAP approved. Most people won't need the UPA certification, and that is why this is my choice. I choose the Pro Cannon for my tournament paddle of choice if I were to go tomorrow. Hopefully you guys like this video. Click on a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Let me know which of these paddles you would choose and why. Or maybe if you have these paddles, what are some things that you like about it, don't like about it? I really want to hear what you guys have out there, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.